This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Series 9, I think it is, of Behind the Mask with the Hospitality Leader. Today, I'm joined with the amazing Richard Franks from the fantastic Chilango brand, which I'm sure you've tried one of the delicious burritos. I certainly have. Richard, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to chat.
Yeah, not at all. No, thanks for joining me. It's been a long process. I think, to be honest, it's been tough. It's been a tough almost year. And from your side, I understand that you became MD of Chilango. I shouldn't laugh, but it is all about being thrown in the deep end with you, I think, at the start of all of this. So care to tell us what it's been like being thrown in at that deep end?
Yeah, it's been definitely a very interesting year. In the sense of being thrown in the deep end, I was lucky enough that I had been in the business for 4 years before taking the appointment of MD. So knowing Chilango pretty much inside out had given me a great head start. And of course, very passionate about doing as much as I could for the business, knowing the team, knowing all the experiences and what we'd already been through pre-COVID was a pretty treacherous time, as with most businesses. It's always a struggle, but in particular, Chilango operations level, we were up against many challenges as many businesses. But taking on the MD role was always something that I was aiming for in my time at Chilango, and always wanting to feel like I had an opportunity or gained the experience in the years before. And actually, the opportunity came up, and I was like, yeah, I took it on and with full gusto. So I took over as MD in January, having an amazing sort of January and February, actually, good life-to-life growth, experiencing, thinking, okay, we've got our mojo back. But yeah, it's when that news struck sort of end of February, early March, that there was a virus on its way, I was in doubt and just sort of in denial, like many people, that's fine, it's not going to touch us. And actually, some of my ops managers were saying to me, oh, I think we should be taking this a bit more serious. And I was like, okay. So I looked more into it, and we started putting processes into place to make sure the teams were being looked after and felt safe. And then, of course, the dreaded announcement from the Prime Minister was, okay, shuttering all the restaurants was just like a kick in the teeth, as it was for everyone. I think more so in the sense for the team, because we'd literally recently just gone through a CVA, so the business had literally just been saved in the December of 2019.
I remember, yeah.
So we felt like we were literally back in the same place we were before. But yeah, it was very much a throwing at the deep end, learning a lot about how we could really understand what the challenges were ahead, really sitting back and watching and thinking and trying to learn, at the same time trying to think about how am I going to save everyone's roles, how am I going to keep the business going, a business that was already struggling to then get through this. At the same time, I had a new head of finance join, so she had to really understand the business really quickly. I've never learned, as an MD, of course you need to know everything about business, but cash flow was never my thing. I was the ops director. But to then be thrown in and go, oh, cash flow. Yeah, this is the most important part of the business. You've got to keep it right. You've got to be on the ball. And having a new head of finance who had vast amounts of experience on cash flow to really then go on that journey of learning it, oh my gosh, that along with reassuring all the teams is being, everyone's very passionate and everyone really wanted to grow, but then saying, I'm sorry, everyone onto furlough. And that's what we were so grateful for, because a lot of businesses, and we were thinking, okay, we're going to have to make everybody redundant. We're going to have to push, close the business and save as much costs. A week later, then the announcement of furlough was like a grace, a real shining moment for us, and made us give us some time to breathe and then move it forward. But yeah, the deep end was very deep. Put it that way.
It sounds incredibly deep, but fair play to have sort of run with that and gone through what sound like incredible challenges. You mentioned, as I understand, being a hospitality leader through over the last sort of, as I say, Richard, almost year. You mentioned it is a lonely place to be, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And perhaps teams don't necessarily realise that, which is part of the reason for this Behind the Mask series, is to kind of just be real and human about the whole thing. So
Yes.
I don't know whether it was a saving grace or how things have worked within Chilango. You obviously run the delivery option, grab and go, through your stores. What have trading conditions been like, dare I ask?
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting one. We were always fairly lucky in the sense that the Chilango product delivered very well, and over the course of the previous 3 or 4 years, we'd always been trying to master that and make sure that that's a wing of the business that was extra revenue, but also really supported the growth of the sort of 2017, 18, and 19 years. But obviously, that was then the only option when we went into lockdown. So a few weeks into lockdown, we really worked hard on thinking, how can we reopen? I worked closely with our Deliveroo account manager. I was very nervous about it because I wanted to make sure the teams were safe. But actually, we went back in, we cleaned the restaurants, we got them COVID secure and COVID safe. And then we just tested the water in a couple of locations, and it was a very good period for us in the sense of we opened with gusto, and actually ever since then we then opened a second, a third, a fourth. Now we have 9 locations and continued with 9 locations open. At the same time, again, like, it's really been important to make sure the teams feel like they're safe and making sure that they are on top of everything, that they have the knowledge that they need, that the environments are safe, they have all the equipment they need to do it. But we were really lucky. So in the spring, we worked again further with Deliveroo. We opened our first, we call them vibrant kitchens. They're the dark kitchens within additions. We opened one in Battersea. Then we've recently now opened another 2. We've opened one in Reading and now in Canary Wharf, all of which are doing very well. It's a bit of a devil's advocate, but it's actually saved our business. We wouldn't have been able to do the sale because we went into administration, unfortunately, in June, July of last year. And actually, because we reopened, because we did a lot with Deliveroo and delivery and really promoted that, that is what saved our business. That's what helped save 130 jobs, but also keeps us, and that's why I'm sitting here today, through really working on making sure delivery was our biggest focus. So before the pandemic, it was the devil's advocate for restaurants and chains because they were, a lot of business were losing business because they weren't able to do delivery. And now it's the only thing you can to generate revenue. And, I'm sure, along with many other business leaders that are hopefully listening to this, would agree that without that, delivery wasn't even around 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Without that, now we would probably not have survived.
No, I understand that. I mean, obviously, you've had to keep the city sites shut for obvious reasons. So those 5, I think it is. Looking forward to be able to go back to them at some point. Just to jump back in terms of the denial of, and then dealing with the facts. It does sound like, I thought I'd had. I'm trying not to use the word journey, but I thought I've had a really intense journey, and it sounds like you've had an equally, if not, you might put me on that one, intense journey. But I like the fact that you've mentioned people, Richard. How have your teams reacted to change in our world? And I suppose my question is, what's been the overall engagement with them, and why?
So being a small business, I think we were kind of lucky compared to the bigger chains. I'm sure bigger chains had bigger teams that probably could support keeping on top of their teams. But I suppose, again, the luck I had was that I knew pretty much everybody in the business. I definitely know the managers very well and the teams very well, and I have a small support team. But it was really important through lockdown to really implement what we called social Fridays, where one week it would be a social with the managers on Zoom, the next week it would be the support team. We would do quizzes, we would do just keeping people really updated, whether they're on furlough or back working in the delivery restaurants. That was very important. It was just so important to be in there as well. Everyone was still a bit worried and a bit scared. So actually, we were expecting or asking people to work in the environments, but actually we need to be there to show them that we're supportive of that and being around so they can ask questions and feel supported. We did a lot of little things around, I would make sure that I was trying to speak to as many managers myself, as well as the ops team, but also making sure that, we were rewarding in different ways. So bringing people back, we paid a higher hourly rate, and it was voluntary as well. We didn't force people to come back to work. It was very much like, okay, we're reopening. It's your choice. If you want to stay on furlough, but actually we've got this opportunity. Of course, when you're paying people 80%, why would they bother coming back? So we then increased the hourly rate by a further 20%, just to give them that little bit of support. And then we introduced a small bonus scheme, but also we've been trying to reward people on a weekly basis. We work very closely, because Deliveroo are earning a lot of money out of us. We work very closely with Deliveroo to say, okay, well, actually, these guys are supplying us. Now we were given free delivery vouchers, co-funded with Deliveroo, to really support people feeling like they're being appreciated. And then at Christmas, we did a few bits, made sure people got a present. Just, it was all very much about, we know it's tough. We were very honest and very open with everyone, but at the same time, making sure they felt like they were being supported. And that did go a long way. When I was visiting the restaurants, when I go out and speak to the teams and speak to the managers, I actually see a bit more passion in them, because they also want us to survive. They also want us to come out the other end and see where the future lies. So, you know, and that is where it always sank with me. It wasn't about saving my job. It wasn't about saving anything other than making sure the teams felt like their jobs were safe and that they felt that they had a future. Because when we do come out of this, they're the ones that have got us through it. And I think that's the most important part. And I will always be ever grateful to everyone that's ever worked within the team and within the business.
Amazing stuff, Richard. It's amazing how your mindset changes, and throughout, you know, throughout the teams, and the fact that you've done that, and you can see that change in people's attitude and behaviours, and the appreciation and the loyalty and all those things that, you know, those great things that we strive towards that don't always necessarily come naturally. It's a bit of a game changer, I think it's fair to say. At the same time, it doesn't negate the fact that it's been an incredibly tough journey for everyone. But you've got to take the positives, right? There's certainly real positives, and actually what you just said has inspired me. Right, my question to you, my next question to you is about you, Richard. Have you stayed sane, and if so, how?
Wow, stayed sane. I don't know. Has anyone stayed sane? It's been, when we talk, you say journey, it's a really weird word not to be able to use, because it has been the strangest experience, the most resilient experience. It tests all your resilience. It tests your mental state. It tests your, you know, when you're trying to be very positive, you sort of think, oh, who's keeping me sort of awake and positive and focused as well? And it is a challenge. But yeah, I think I'm lucky enough that you know, I feel confident in what I'm doing, but I feel confident in my team, which really helps me and my sanity. You know, if you're worried about your team crumbling, or if you're worried about your team not doing the right thing, then you've got a bigger problem. But actually, I was very lucky that, you know, I've got a very talented team. I've got a very focused and very passionate team, which helps. And then from my point of view, for me, keeping sane, I've just been, I don't know if I've been disciplined, but I've been working really, really hard, and I think everyone has. So actually, that has helped me keep my mind very, very focused through this last 12 months. And you know, not many people have been lucky enough to be able to work through it. So working through it has been a blessing in disguise. Whilst it's been challenging and stressful and all the other things that goes with it, actually keeping more focused and keeping on top of stuff. Obviously, going through a sale process and going through an administration process and then a sale process has been the biggest learning curve, but it also has made me grow and understand things in a much better way. On a personal level, I've just been, you know, I've been quite disciplined. You know, I've converted one of our rooms into an office, which was good, which I hadn't done before, but also just trying to have disciplined days and making sure at the end of the day I do completely switch off. That was challenging at the peak, but actually I've got a better routine. And now I'm just doing everything I can to, you know, use all the meal kits that are out there now, which weren't before. So getting a taste of other restaurants that I miss is a big thing. Doing lots of walks. I've always liked walking, but that's really helped. Moved to just out on the outskirts of Kent just before this happened, actually. So making the most of that when at socially distanced away. And yeah, you know, we're lucky enough that we've got an outside space. So last summer it was easy for us to sort of try and keep sane at home. So yeah, it's been interesting, but I think fundamentally it's the reassurance that knowing that you're in a good place, you're trying to save something, but that's what keeps you going all the time. I think it's just, if it doesn't work, try and change it. If it hasn't worked, then don't make that mistake again. And I think that's been you know, like I've said in an article I wrote on LinkedIn earlier this week, it really did feel like I'd done a lot in 12 months, a career in a year. And that's kind of what I was inspired to write that. And it really helped put my mind at ease by putting pen to paper.
Amazing resilience and the energy in terms of the outlook is great to hear. It's actually really nice to be this side of the Q&A again, actually, Richard. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. For what it's worth, sounds like you're absolutely passing the test, because this has been a test. Let's keep the test, not struggle and challenge. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for getting involved. Well, look, I look forward to, at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, grabbing a burrito and a desperado or something with you, and saying hello in the person. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Nick, and to you.